about some real stuff. If you just run away, again, you don't have to agree with me, but just hear me out. If you run away because you don't want to have to face the truth, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you become this shamed pariah, you're putting yourself, like you're in a prison with a door that opens and you just won't open the door. So let's get into it. Okay, so how do you view the world? I'll tell you how you view the world. It's called the Blue Marble. It's a painting. How do I know that? NASA finally admitted it because the technology has outpaced their lies. And again, a lot of us know NASA lies, but we're going to really get into this today. We're going to go places where it's going to be uncomfortable. But when you see it, you'll start understanding why the world is so twisted. Literally. It's bent. Literally. And when you bend all of your reality, it affects all of it. It's all related to the big lie. Just hear me out. And I know that you have an inkling of just being like, oh, how dare you? Just technology outpaced the lie. There's a lot of people that think these liars have a much better control of their lies than they do. That this has all been a plan, that seeing the Photoshops and all that has all been a plan by NASA to keep us in an even infinite dungeon. No, that isn't the nature of the lie. This exact image. To the point where NASA had to admit it. This is all an artist's rendition. That is not a picture, and that has been drilled into your brain. The last picture that was ever taken of the Earth, allegedly, obviously not true, was during the Apollo missions in the early 70s. This was made in the 2000s. So for 43 years, I believe it was, 43 years, there was not a single picture taken of the Earth and shown to the people. This is not conspiracy theory. This is real. Look it up with NASA. Look it up with any place where you can find mainstream information. For 2 generations of alleged satellites and space missions and all this stuff, no one turned the camera on the Earth and took a picture. Then came Blue Marble. Blue Marble came out and they put it on the screen of every iPhone to cement the worldview of the population, right? People figured out it wasn't true because there's Photoshop all over it. Those clouds are drawn in. So it became a thing. And so NASA had to admit it. But they did it in the spin way of the liars. So this is from nasa.gov. I just got this today. They're doing an interview with the artist. It's not a photograph. That's an image. There's a difference. Words have meaning. Okay. Rito Stacchi, now at the Swiss Federal. Okay, the hard part was creating a flat map of the Earth's surface with 4 months of satellite data. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Then he wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface clouds and ocean to match people's expectations of how Earth looks from space. He's telling you straight up what they do. He's not showing you what Earth looks like from space. He's trying to match your expectation of what Earth looks like from space. The ball became the famous Blue Marble. I was happy with it, but I had no idea how widespread it would become. We never thought it would become an icon. I certainly never thought I would be Mr. Blue Marble. We have since updated the base maps by increasing the resolution, and for 2004, we made a series of monthly maps. Right. Okay, it goes on. The summer of 2007, I bought one of my first iPhones. There was a Blue Marble, right? So because of the backlash, NASA finally recently came out with another image of Earth. Okay, this is the image of Earth that they now have. They said, okay, enough artist renditions. Okay, if you zoom in, they literally write sex in the clouds. They can't help themselves. This is also an artist rendition. How do I know that? Because the Earth is not a ball. I am 100% certain. So what are satellites? Okay, satellites aren't what they say they are. Satellites are hot air balloons, and I'll show you right now. How do I know this? Because the technology is patented. Google, Amazon, all these people use these satellites with hot air balloons. And the reason they never tell you about it in mainstream media is because it will make you question the nature of satellites themselves. Oh, and by the way, all those pictures, they're all distorted. forgot to edit out this linear string to show the curve of the lens. All right, this is what an actual satellite is.
By the Bentrope. The student's photo here was taken with a fisheye lens, and then the article falsely claimed it was the curvature. Do you see the deception? In addition to the flat horizon as shown at 108,000 feet, the Felix Baumgartner jump proves the flat Earth in another way. Here's where Felix entered the dangling capsule at maybe 10 feet. Notice where the horizon line is. Here's Felix at 128,000 feet. The horizon line should have dropped substantially. Instead, the horizon line is at the same exact spot, thus proving that the horizon does indeed rise to eye level, belying the globe model again. Exhibit 25. No space satellite into the flat Earth is, what about satellites? Did you know that NASA has hundreds of these satellite balloons up in the air right now? I never knew these NASA satellites existed before flat Earth. Have you seen them? Google and many other companies
have... Just look at what you're looking at right now. That's what a satellite actually is. So just know that. This is what a satellite is, and then we'll talk about all the math and all the experiments that people do every single day with one camera.
These balloons as well. Look up Project Loon. The fact that NASA and its subsidiaries hardly discuss these so-called satellites was a huge proof for me because it evinces a deliberate effort to conceal the fact that space satellites don't exist, simply because they're not necessary. The whitewash of these balloon satellites is evidence that they are lying about space satellites. These high-altitude balloons can carry 8,000 pounds and include telescopes, radar equipment, communications equipment, internet, etc. Here's one that almost killed some people. Also, never mentioned is the fact that almost all of our alleged communications come from undersea cables and cell towers, not supposed satellites in space. Your cable and satellite radio do not come from space. What about the Hubble telescope? This is the Hubble telescope. It's called SOFIA. One flat earther was able to get a NASA manager to admit on the phone that the images from SOFIA were strangely being used as Hubble's images. Finally, look at these actual NASA videos of satellites. They are manifestly fake. Look at this one that was launched during a space shuttle mission. It's dangling from a wire.
Go back to NASA's mainstream releases of what a satellite was from not that long ago. It's nonsense. It looks like you're watching a Star Trek show. It doesn't match reality at all. That's why technology outpaces it. How are you going to stop it? There is no spin. There's no spin of the Earth. Go outside. This lie has been so big that it makes you not trust your senses.
8 inches per mile squared represents how much a distant object should be hidden below the horizon from a ground level view based on the official mathematical dimensions of the Earth. That is a ball Earth with a circumference of 24,901 miles. The curvature formula is a mathematical certainty for all observable distances with respect to the imaginary globe Earth. Stated the curvature drop formula very well. If the Earth is a globe and is 25,000 English statute miles in circumference, the surface of all standing water must have a certain degree of convexity. Every part must be an arc of a circle. From the summit of any such arc, there will exist a curvature or declination of 8 inches in the first statute mile. In the second mile, the fall will be 32 inches. In the third mile, 72 inches or 6 feet, as shown in the following diagram. So, at 1 mile, a distant object should drop 8 inches. Not a big deal. Well, let's look at 4 miles. Remember, 8 inches per mile squared, you square the miles. 4 miles times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 10.6 feet. A curvature drop of 10.6 feet at just 4 miles. Now wait a second, we could take binoculars out and easily see 4 miles on a clear day. What about a distance of 8 miles? 8 miles times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 43 feet or 13.1 meters. Now, I bet there are a few people here who have stood at the edge of a lake on a clear day with binoculars and could see the shore on the other side 8 miles away. But there should have been roughly a drop of 43 feet.
All right, like watch this.
Tall mountain, like this one here, Mount Drum in Alaska. The prominence of this mountain is 6,710 feet. Very close. How many people have witnessed a drop this tall while driving 100 miles along a coastal road? You can see 100 miles with a high zoom camera, up of 9,600 feet or 2,926 meters. That's about the prominence of Mount Shasta, shown here. Do you see a curvature drop of 9,600 feet along the Suez Canal in this video that could hide Mount Shasta? I don't. Another important question is, why haven't you ever heard about the very fun fact that the Earth supposedly drops at 8 inches per mile squared? Everyone's heard of E equals mc squared, and no one can apply that to reality. But up until just a few years ago...
Really let that hit home. E equals mc squared doesn't mean anything to anyone. You hear E equals mc squared all the time, but you never hear anything about the equation of the curvature of the Earth. And when you hear 8 inches per mile, you think that's nothing. It's 8 inches per mile squared. It's exponential. That's how circles work. It's tremendous amount of curvature. And the reason you keep being told energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, I mean, that's so stupid, and it doesn't apply to anything in your life. It's an intentional red herring. Now enjoy.
No one ever heard of the Earth's supposed curvature drop of 8 inches per mile squared, even though every person should see this on a daily basis. Imagine how fun that would be in a classroom to demonstrate the shape of the Earth by measuring the supposed curvature drop of a city that's 30 miles away, by using a simple math that a 10-year-old would comprehend. But no one was ever taught this in a classroom, not even in surveying courses. Why? In ancient Egypt, that has varying interpretations. In contrast, flat earthers rely on actual, concrete measurements that anyone can make to measure the supposed curvature of the Earth if there was one. Here's an infamous example of the curvature problem. How many people here can quote this weatherman? What you're seeing here is a mirage. Why is he saying that?
Absolutely dismantle that statement.
Because the entire city of Chicago should be hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. Does that look like a mirage to you? Of course it's not. It's bullshit. Everyone here probably had warning bells go off when you heard that weatherman make that ridiculously false statement. That is no mirage. That is a direct line of sight that is often obstructed by haze, miraging, atmospheric distortion, weather, or larger, closer waves and swells that have a large respective angular size. The hired liars out there will use these obvious atmospheric distortions or large swells and waves as proofs of the curvature. Don't let the deceivers trick you. Here's another one. In this clip, the news lady again says that you're seeing a mirage. It's a photograph from Michigan to Milwaukee at a distance of 80 miles. The top of the tallest building in Milwaukee should be 3,102 feet below the horizon, according to the spherical model, but we can see much of the city line. Do you think that's line of sight or selective curvature hopping mirages that just happen to present a flat Earth? Can you allow yourself to see the problem here? I don't care if you believe me right now, but you as a rational thinking individual need to grab your telescope and your binoculars and head out to the lake or ocean on a calm, high visibility day without miraging, and you will see the flat Earth for yourself. We see too far. There is no Earth curvature at 8 inches per mile squared. That is a fact. That brings us to culprit 2. What would have happened if Rowbotham in 1838, who was claiming that he could see too far, could have live-streamed his 6-mile test? Well, maybe things would have been different. The YouTube platform enabled hundreds, if not thousands of us to conduct similar curvature and other tests, like Rowbotham. YouTube enabled us to share our observations with millions of people, and they could see it for themselves. And millions of people are seeing the truth despite the overwhelming propaganda and censorship that is now happening. Because of the Flat Earth Revolution, YouTube has taken active steps to stop the Flat Earth on its website, as openly stated in Congress by the president of YouTube, as shown right here. Yes, the president of YouTube proclaimed that YouTube would suppress Flat Earth and promote the official story, and it's YouTube's official policy. And so it's hard to find genuine Flat Earth researchers anymore. YouTube is now actively banning and suppressing peace-loving people like me, while simultaneously promoting the official But Google's censorship cannot undo what has been done. Humanity has discovered that there is indeed no curvature to the Earth, and that truth will not be suppressed because you can see it for yourself with merely a telescope or high-zoom camera. Even though it has become a bastion of censorship now, I still want to thank YouTube for its unwitting help, and especially those first Flat Earth pioneer YouTubers. Thank you. Now we're to the third culprit for the Flat Earth revolution. We already discussed the curvature chart, but now we're going to test its application, which brings us to the Nikon P900. They now have a Nikon P1000, but this P900 changed everything. Nikon made it easy and affordable to zoom in at 83 times magnification, record it, and then upload the video to YouTube and other video sharing sites. I thought flat earthers were maybe faking their tests, so I bought this camera so I could see it for myself. Flat earthers aren't faking anything. Unlike the globe model propagandists, you don't have to trust us. Flat Earth isn't word of mouth anymore. I can show you the actual video proof again and again and again.
Again, this was drawn by a guy. Where'd you get that info from? NASA. That's an artist's rendition according to his own words. His own words. Then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface clouds and oceans to match people's expectations of how Earth looks from space. And this is just one video. I'm just trying to show you visuals because a lot of people like visuals. There is no evidence at all to a curve that doesn't come from NASA. And yeah, satellites are made and then they're put in hot air balloons.
Before I start discussing the proofs of the flat Earth, it's necessary to first address the ridiculousness of the official heliocentric model, because you probably haven't really thought about it. I didn't. I just parroted information in my classrooms to get the grade. Shockingly, very few people even know what the official heliocentric model is. Let's just cover a few of the numbers. If you believe in official heliocentrism, you believe that the wobbling and tilted Earth is rotating 1,037 miles per hour at the equator. The speed of sound is 767 miles per hour, so the ground you're standing on, at least on the equator, is allegedly moving at 1.4 times the speed of sound. Can you think of any evidence of the Earth's rotation? Wouldn't you think that this movement would be evident in the atmosphere, that airplanes, clouds, and weather balloons would be affected by the ground's movement at 1,037 miles per hour? The fact is that there's no evidence of the ground's rotation whatsoever. Foucault pendulums and the supposed Earth's Coriolis effect are nonsense. They are absurd lies. Second, if you believe in heliocentrism, you believe that the Earth is moving in its orbit around the Sun at 66,600 miles per hour. Even Einstein said you can't detect the Earth's movement by any optical experiment. So why do you believe in this nonsense?
Measure on any level. It's all buoyancy. That's why they use balloons for satellites. And when you see it, it's George is spiraling right now.
And still maintaining the same speed with the bowling ball. It's nonsense, especially when you consider that those tiny BBs have other tiny BBs rotating around history. Next, you believe the entire Milky Way galaxy, including our Sun and the North Star, is traveling at 1.34 million miles per hour towards the constellation Hydra. If you believe in heliocentrism, you believe the Earth is moving in a vortex through space like this at over 1 million miles per hour. Of course, this video isn't correctly scaled, but it's even more ridiculous when you think of it correctly scaled. But I want you to think about this. All of the so-called planets and their moons are all supposed to be on the same plane with the Sun, but rocketing with the Sun at unimaginable speeds, being pulled by gravity. How would gravity hold these planets on the same plane as the Sun? How surprised would you be at firing a bowling ball, representing our Sun, and then have tiny BBs at the 3,000 feet away orbiting around the zooming bowling ball with the bowling ball? It's nonsense, especially when you consider that those tiny BBs have other tiny BBs rotating around them, all maintaining the same plane with our bowling ball Sun. Think about comets that zip away from the Sun to then, 70 years later, like Halley's Comet, to catch back up with the Sun on a I don't care how many degrees you have. This is stupid. Look at this footage of star trails. Think of how impossible it would be to film these trails as the Earth is supposedly wobbling, tilted, rotating at 1,000 miles per hour, orbiting at 66,600 miles per hour, and chasing after a sun zooming at 450,000 miles per hour. As pointed out in the book Kings Dethroned, modern astronomy is built upon shameful blunder after shameful blunder. It's fascinating how few honest, educated people have found these blunders. But that's the power of institutionalized conformity. Even the most educated become nothing but mere parrots of their institutions. 2002 Blue Marble fakery. NASA claims that they took an actual
This is the ultimate smoking gun, guys. So 43 years later, they come out with another one. It's all lies. And they pull a Disney. This is part of magic. Disney taught this to Werner von Braun. Just watch, because this is all also in like Lion King and Little Mermaid and all that. They have to put, the devil has to put their his signature in it, because you have to be able to choose. You have to choose the deception. The whole thing is contract law. That's how evil works. So they have to show you what they're doing, and you have to be so full of sin and low vibration that you don't see it, or you choose not to see it, and you take it, and then you've sealed your fate. That's the whole point. Watch this part. It's mind-blowing.
Of the Earth from space in July 2015. That's the first alleged photograph in 43 years. Here it is. Does this alleged 2015 photograph look much different than the admitted fake image of 2002? As we already saw, NASA artists can admittedly create fake images of the Earth that look real to everyone, and that's a fact. Shouldn't you now be a bit skeptical? Instead of spending $340 million on...
All right, let me enunciate this again. So the artist rendition and the quote-unquote real thing just so happen to line up. Now, but just wait. There's more.
This alleged 2015 photograph. NASA could have just had another NASA employee recreate the 2002 image with a few different clouds and shading, and no one would know the difference, and NASA could pocket the rest. Now's a different example. If a forger created an admitted fake painting from Van Gogh and sold the perfect but fake Van Gogh for $1,000, that would be fine, right? As long as he's honest about it, I wouldn't have a problem. But then let's say this excellent forger claimed a decade later to have a real Van Gogh on sale for $50 million. Wouldn't you be a tad bit skeptical before purchasing it, especially if you had no way of verifying its authenticity? I would. But let's take a closer look at NASA's supposed 2015 photograph. Let's rotate it and zoom in. The word sex is spelled in the clouds. It's unmistakable. Some pervert at NASA thought...
So it's not just some pervert. It's part of lesser magic. So Disney and all these people, when they're subverting your kids and when they're selling you a lie, the way they establish contract law is they put something insane in it. And then they say, well, if you cared about your kids, you would have looked closer at what you're showing them. You know, there's like dildos and all this stuff in Little Mermaid and all that. They put sex in the clouds. And there's going to be people that say, oh, so it's just clouds. It just so happens. No, they wrote sex in the clouds. And they do it so that when you believe it, you're submitting. It's about submission. It's about power, control, and breaking from God.
This isn't cherry-picking one of 10,000 images. This is the first supposed photograph of Earth from space in 43 years, and it just so happens to have sex spelled in the clouds. This was also an interesting quote from Wired magazine regarding phony space images. Images sure don't come straight out of space telescopes looking press release ready. Each visualization, just
let you know, that means all.
Of artists collaborating to convert blips on a data readout into something that looks like a planet, all while remaining scientifically plausible. In other words, all of those space images you have on your walls are all imaginary constructs to only look plausible. Robert Simon created Blue Marble to match people's expectations. It sounds like that is the standard NASA policy. Earliest high-altitude aeronauts confirmed the flat Earth. In 1931, Auguste Piccard reached an altitude of 51,775 feet, much higher than any plane you've been on. Piccard described the Earth as a flat disk with upturned edge.
reality and truth. And this is the spiritual reality of the lie. He's about to describe it right now, and then we'll, figure it out.
Written in 1887. We date from the 1st of January, 1601. This era is called the Era of Man, to distinguish it from the theological epoch that preceded it. In that epoch, the earth was supposed to be flat. The sun was its attendant light, revolving about it. Above was heaven, where God ruled supreme over all potentates and power. Below was the kingdom of the dead, hell. So taught the Bible. Then came the new astronomy. It demonstrated that the earth is a globe, revolving about the sun, that there is no up and down in space. Vanished the old heaven, vanished the old hell, the earth became the home of man, and when the modern cosmogony came, the Bible and the church, as infallible oracles, had to go, for they had taught that regarding the universe which was shown to be untrue in every particular. The heliocentric model was created to usher in the era of man, and remove God and the Bible from all cosmogony. It brought us such nonsense as the Big Bang and evolution. It removed biblical ideas of heaven above and hell below, and the salvation of mankind. Instead, you became an insignificant parasite that descended from primordial ooze. The globe lie worked, at least up until now. My brothers and sisters, this is an exciting time as we have a chance to break these chains that enslave us. However, we must set aside our petty differences and join together with all humility before God to bring His truth to humanity. The evil cabal keeps trying to divide us. Please don't let them do that. Please go out and share the truth with everyone, as it is left up to us.
He said the only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life. Your memories, attachments, they burn them all away. But they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. Relax.